That was me clicking my tongue and then responding. Alright, I'm going to sit here and read my book. Alright, it's Friday, August 19th, I think, 2022. I can't look at the clock. It's about 1 a.m. And I am about 50 to 100 plus yards away from the family of Sasquatch. And I'm going to be sitting here reading my book. Hopefully the microphone will pick up like it's supposed to. Hang on, let me fix this. Okay, I think that'll work. Tired. Knocks, whoops, teeth chattering, and then talking in their own language. There's a creek here between us. It's only about 5 feet wide. Alright, this is chapter 2, Love Before Fear. My first encounter, as I said before, seemingly came a little late in life, on the night of Sunday, August 2nd, 2020, the night just before a full moon. I'd set out to go to a place I'd already been visiting for 2 years at the time, a local UFO and general paranormal hotspot. Though I cannot say much about the location, it is simply a pull-off parking area on the side of a local scenic highway in southern Appalachian Mountains of North Carolina, USA. What makes this area so unique is that ghost lights, giant orbs, UFO activity, and other such supernatural phenomena have been witnessed and or recorded there for many, many years. Possibly even a couple of centuries by now. Over the course of the first 2 years I'd spent hanging out there, I was witness with others to several paranormal events, including inexplicable light anomalies both in the sky and on the ground, a friend's ghost voice box device declaring tobacco as I was laying down some tobacco and offering to the spirits there. They are making sounds behind in the background. As well as what appeared to be an invisible person standing in the rain early one spring evening when there was still some light out. The last encounter would become one which entwined with later encounters. These experiences are just tipping the iceberg though, but like these encounters, many such events have allowed for other witnesses present at the time of the event. Having had so many inexplicable paranormal experiences throughout my life already, this is a place I come not to seek it out, but rather to be a part of it all, away from most other humans. It was a beautiful midsummer's night, the night before a full moon, which still carries the same or nearly the same energy as a full moon. Just as I pulled in, I remembered to say a prayer to a departed friend who had happened to be a world-famous psychic and reader of the stars. Paige, I thought to myself, please help me to witness the spirit lights here tonight. As I said this prayer to myself, I began to hear something walking in the woods around me, near and far, as was the case most every time there. I then said within, and Paige, if there are truly Sasquatches here, then please assist me in experiencing a safe encounter. I guess I owe a little explanation here. There were three factors which made this night ready for a perfect storm. One being, for all the supernatural experiences I'd already witnessed, I'd never encountered what people call a quote-unquote Bigfoot. And I'd always repeated how such an encounter was absolutely on my bucket list. The second factor was that there were other locals frequenting the area who kept telling me that there was a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch family there. I just always thought to myself that I'd believe it when I see it. Yes, there was a whoop in the background, sorry. I can't tag everything when I'm reading. They're talking and carrying on constantly. The third factor is that I had already experienced some activity which could have been related to the presence of one or a few large primates, such as having already heard roughly 7 massive trees being pushed or falling over in dead calm wind and general non-violent weather. Each time this occurred, I felt as if something was off about it, as such events would keep my heart and adrenaline involuntarily pumping for at least 30 minutes afterward out of an intoxicating combination of pure hypervigilance and sheer curiosity. As well, on 3 different occasions, small rocks were thrown at me or the group of people I was talking with, to which none of us had any logical explanation. And so the stage is set for that summer night, as any night a little sooner could have been. After speaking my prayer to my deceased friend, I decided to go into my car and pull out a piece of wood, a club really, I'd found on a hike a few years before. I then took that club and struck a larger log on the ground and ended up receiving more of a response than I could have ever imagined. I'd arrived at 9:40 p.m. and it was about 10 p.m. when the physical activity began behind me. As I was staring off in the opposite direction where the ghost lights and UFO activity are so often witnessed, some wild animal suddenly started thrashing all about the steep embankment across the road and behind me, towards the east as I was facing oppositely west. Eventually, the thrashing about became so much intense activity that I decided to turn my car around to face east and keep my eyes and high-powered flashlight on the embankment. Frightened, I also began hollering up at the embankment before me as loudly as possible, having realized that this was escalating into a full-on standoff with some kind of large wild animal. Now, typically in such standoffs, it's fairly easy to hold one's ground by making loud noises, as the greatest threat in the area is just known to be black bear, wild boar, coyote, bobcat, and the believed to be extinct panther, but this was different. Every time I would yell louder, this creature would escalate in its noise as it thrashed about the steep embankment, breaking branches and snapping submittal to smaller-sized trees. I looked at the time on my cell phone, 10:30 p.m. It then dawned on me that no ordinary animal in this part of the United States, or likely let alone any other part of the country, was going to have a 30-minute standoff with me, and I honestly began to fear for my life a little. This violent standoff continued on for another 15 minutes, still escalating. After looking at my cell phone again to check the time, which was now 10:45 p.m., I finally came up with an idea. Having been a singer all of my life, I decided to go ahead and sing my unhappy host some songs. I sang an indigenous American song I'd grown fond of, an old spiritual I've forgotten the name of, and Sam Cooke's A Change Is Gonna Come. And yeah, they are making sounds behind me. For whatever reason, this quieted the beast for that time being, but it started thrashing about again the moment I paused too long in silence. It wasn't until then that actual communication was offered, heard, received, and responded to. Out of stubbornness and frustration, I hollered up at the steep ridge above me, "Hey, I'm not your enemy. If anything, I'm your friend. I have no weapons, and I mean no harm. Please don't run me off from my favorite place." Of course, I was yelling this at the time. I'm just describing the experience. This was a lot more intense than I'm making it as reading it. Back to the book. I looked at my cell phone again as the usually a docile forest grew quiet for the first time in almost an hour. It was now 10:52 p.m. 2 long, intense minutes later, I heard a loud but all too clear knock, knock come from the ridge above me. It was then that I finally knew that the ordeal was over. It wasn't until then, though, that I was actually able to process how frightened I truly was. Every fiber in my being had wanted me to leave, to run, except my heart. Either way, I just instinctually got into my car, turned it back around to face the area where the ghost lights and UFOs were seen, and continued my watch without any further issues. It was settled. I didn't need anyone or anything to tell me what I had just encountered. But for the time being, I held back any use of the terms Bigfoot or Sasquatch. In the coming days, as I told a few friends and family about the encounter, I just always modestly repeated that I had no idea what quote-unquote it was. The next day I called the local park service, spoke with the first person who was in the machine, and told her about my encounter. She took my phone number and told me that she would have a wildlife specialist who works for the park service call me back as soon as possible. A few days later I received the expected call. I calmly told the wildlife specialist about my hour-long encounter with what seemed to be an unknown creature. Together we went down the list of known wildlife in the area: black bear, boar, deer, elk, coyote, bobcat, and even panther, though the authorities claim panthers went extinct here. Yeah, right. And before I could say it, the wildlife specialist did. "Well, I received panther reports before, never a Bigfoot report," he said. To which I could only respond, "I didn't say Bigfoot, you did." And that pretty much ended that conversation. Oh well, at least it wasn't something I had said. I would return the very next night to initiate more contact, albeit in a kinder manner, and it would prove to be worth the trip. So much so that I would end up coming back 4 to 6 nights a week for up to more than 3 hours at a time and establish regular friendly communication. However, it wasn't until August 14th, 2020 that I began taking an audio recorder with me and documenting all recordable activity. This would begin the second leg of my journey and go on to prove that Sasquatches can be as near to us as they like, both in the physical and other realms, possibly third and fourth dimensions, and still remain unseen. I would also go on to learn through this quote-unquote first family that flashlights and cameras are not the proper way to establish a bond with this species, but rather respecting them with the darkness and cover they prefer truly offers its own rewards. Sorry. I'm making sound, and this is from the book He's Not Harry, He's Our Brother, I go by the name Littlefoot. I wrote this book, obviously. True stories of communication with the entire tribe of Sasquatch people, as well as a field guide to Sasquatch signs, sounds, and how to communicate. It's all copyright 2022, Littlefoot. Table of contents. Early signs, forward. Chapter 1, Mud, Sweat, and Years. Chapter 2, Love Before Fear. That's what I just read. Chapter 3 is Intro to the Extended Family. Chapter 4, Sometimes They Follow You Home. Chapter 5, Research and Groundwork. Chapter 6, Chapter 6, Recording and Reviewing Audio. Chapter 7, All in the Family. Chapter 8, The 10 Commandments of the Hairy Man. Chapter 9, Of the Utmost Concern. Tag. Chapter 10, The Supernatural Sasquatch. Chapter 11, Conservation and Protection of the Species. Chapter 12, In Conclusion. This book is dedicated to all of those who loved and challenged me. Most of all, my parents, and to the hairy people whose love and patience has proven itself godly. He has a whoop after that. They're agreeing with me. You can get my book on Amazon Kindle, ebook only. Whoops. It's not available any other way. I have some paperbacks, but they're mostly just for friends and family. I can't afford to keep printing paperbacks, but it's only $7.99. I mean, that's not much even in today's world. If you need to get gas, I understand. You got to put food on the table. I understand. That's what I'm trying to share as much as I can with the public as possible. I'm going to sit and just let them make some sounds. They're talking. That was me lighting a lighter to look at my recorder. That was a whoop right after. I'm way up on a mountain at a friend's house. And I'm actually at his rental house. His house is about a half mile down the road. This is all his property. There's no dogs barking right now at all. Creek's about I'm tagging their sounds. That was a whoop. There's talking. There's a lot of teeth chattering going on too, and you might just think that's the water, but it sounds like clicking of the tongue. That's me. I'm got my recorder in my hand in case I need to stop it. But that's all communication. All those sounds are sticking out. I've been up here in the daytime. You don't hear these sounds like this at all. You don't have a bunch of sounds that pop out like that. And I mean, I've heard a tree push down here before while I was talking to him, but it wasn't towards me. And I say towards me, it wasn't directed towards me in any way, shape, or form. And this is a family tag. There's actually probably a few families around here, but I can only go on so much property, so that's me. Sorry. I'm sitting up on a porch. This is coming through a lavalier clip-on microphone. People use in interviews and so on. They're just constantly communicating with one another. They communicate with me too. They just threw something at me because I had my red bulb on to read the book. But they've never hurt me. Like throwing stuff, that's just communication. That's little stuff. It's not hitting me. They never hit me. They've hit me with like little twigs and stuff. When I pulled out my cell phone before, because I was texting somebody. Or I've had them snap branches and stuff because of that. I don't use lights around them. I can't help what my car lights do, but They know that. I explain that to them, even when I leave a place. I say, all right, I'm going to turn my car on. The lights are coming on. So I make sure you're not in the lights, because I'll cover my eyes. I say, I ain't trying to see you. When I talk to them, I cover my eyes. I say, I'm not trying to see you. And then I'll cut my ear and I'll say, I'm just trying to hear you. I use a lot of hand gestures, kind of show them what I'm talking about, so they understand what I'm saying. They seem to understand very well. I actually just watched Terry and the Hendersons again, just for the hell of it. This friend of mine had the DVD. That it's a pretty accurate movie from what I'm experiencing, except for the fact that in the movie, Harry is in the human environment, and in my life, I'm in their environment. But they're somewhat in our environment too, because they're in our neighborhoods and so in some places. There are other homes here. There are other people that live out here. None of them have had any problems that I know of. But I don't go around talking about people out here, because I don't live out here. And I don't go around talking about other people in my neighborhood either. Except for my neighbors across the street from me, and that's it. That's just because they've had their own encounters too. But they get along with them. They don't have any problems with them too, back at my house. And I don't either. They're like this. They sound like this when they're around water. It's the way the family sound. I know people won't believe this. It's because you're not in the right place at night. That's the only reason. Either they know you're there and they don't want to make any noise. They don't care. They're not worried about me. They're so used to me. I come up and visit them, I'd say once every 3 weeks. It was 2 weeks, and then I met more families, and now it's like 3 weeks to a month. I've known this family for a little over a year. I found out about them before my friend did. I came up to visit him one night, and he asked me to come up to this house, which is a rental, to help him move some furniture out. And I was outside, and it was at night, and because I had to wait till after he got off of work. While I was moving the furniture out, every time I walked outside, I felt all my hair stand up on my body. I just knew something was watching me from the woods. There's a lot of woods here. And, I know there's a lot of woods in the mountains, but I'm just saying there's a lot of woods in this particular place as well. A lot of forest, as you can tell. There are a lot of sounds. But after that, I made contact with them that night, and they actually responded to me. And it's gotten that way. They all kind of know me. And I can go out in the woods anywhere and talk to a family. And out of all the families, 99% of the time I get a response, I'd say. Sometimes it might take up to 20 minutes at the most. But really, it's about within 10 minutes. 99%, let me say 98%, 97%. That's being just realistic. That's not embellishing. I'm a very realistic person, to be honest. People wouldn't always describe me as that because I experience a lot of things other people don't, but I'm very realistic about what I experience. I don't use drugs. I don't drink. I eat CBD gummies. And I'll use a CBD vape, but that's neither here nor there when it comes to this kind of stuff. It actually helps me to relax and focus. I've done drugs in the past when I was younger. And I smoked pot for many years. But I mean, I keep my mind active. I'm physically active. I take a lot of health food supplements to stay healthy. I work out, I lead a normal life, for the most part. I've never had a normal life, though. I've always had experiences since I was a child, since I can remember. It wasn't SASQUATCH, it was ghosts. It wasn't ghosts, it was these god or goddess type beings. And I've seen UFOs. I've not had an up-close encounter with an alien that I know of. But I believe I've had telepathic experiences with what we call star people. And I mean, it would show up in my real life. Like, not that I would have physical contact with them, but there would be evidence in my real life as to what I was experiencing outside of the experience. People can call me crazy. I don't care. Anybody can call anybody crazy over YouTube. On Facebook or anywhere else. I got off of Facebook. I'm much happier for it. Just my personal opinion. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I don't make perfect recordings, especially if I'm reading a book or something like that. Nothing's perfect. So the mic may be out of place, or the Scott is maybe too loud. You name it. As long as I can hear them. I'm not using any kind of earphones. I'm deaf in my right ear. I can hear all their sounds just fine. I will say that on the microphone, this is a condenser mic, so their sounds might be more condensed with the water and the cicadas. I think those are cicadas. Other than that, in reality, everything is separated. I hear everything separate. I can tell things are coming from different directions. It's in different places. The cicadas are higher in the trees, and they're on a high embankment. The hairy people are, but they're low down, not too far from me. Like I said, they're about 50 to 100 yards away. And this one's closest to me. Just watching if you look at me. That's me, I'm going to this side. Walking around. It's a good night to make a recording. I can't help the cicadas. Whatever those are, I'm sorry. I'm going to say things on YouTube while I know what I'm talking about. I may be right, though. I'm pretty sure I am. Something in the locust family, certainly. The cricket family, whatever you want to call it. Oh, here I go again. They may be not be in the same family. But yeah, it's one of the two. So loud here in the south. Doesn't matter if you're way up on a mountain or Around the swamps of South Mississippi. Okay. The creek runs up under a bridge. There's a road. These are not creek sounds that I'm getting. This creek's not very high at all right now. It's about 5 feet wide, and it may be 8 inches deep right now, the water. But the creek is one continuous, flowing sound. It doesn't change unless we get a lot of rain or something. They're talking. And it doesn't account for all these other sounds. Nothing does. There's no animal. No known creature to humans. I want to remind people that, that we don't have to believe in anything for it to be real. It's how new discoveries are made. It's not always that somebody believed in something. Sometimes people just happen upon things. And I also want to add that people that have a primatologist or archaeologist or whatever they are searching for evidence to hairy people, you're going to need a physicist. A physics professor or something like that. This is beyond our understanding. Again, for me, I'm not about proving things. I'm more about behavioral research. While everybody else is trying to prove whether or not they exist, I'll just be ready to teach humans. And right now, I'm hoping to teach or show humans, whatever. I don't want to put myself in some kind of high position or anything. But best I can to help show humans that don't know how to talk to, how to work with, how to deal with hairy people. How to be peaceful. How to be friends with them. Depends on what you want. If you don't want them around, just put a lot of lights up around your house or wherever you don't want them around. When I'm out talking to them, no lights. Around my home, back at my home, no lights. No outdoor lights, just lights on the inside. And they come a lot closer and talk to you a lot more, and they're friendly. They don't bother you. Younger ones might be playful and might throw things and do things, but you have to understand this is all communication. It's how they talk to each other. It's an honor for them. An honor for a human to have them talk to you like they do each other. That means they see you as an equal. On some level. Pure. I think I'm going to go ahead and end this here. I've made it long enough. Hope you enjoyed hearing all these sounds. It's not swoops. I want to call it teeth chattering. That's what I put in the book. It might be some kind of tongue clicking. Just the higher pitched sounds that almost sound like water. But again, they use the sounds of nature to cover their sounds, and they use their communication after the sounds of nature. I think this was actually sitting up on a river today, during the daytime, sitting right over the top of the river, hearing the sounds and how similar they are to hairy people, and how similar hairy people sounds are to the river. But I hear their sounds away from rivers too, so there's no water running. Same sounds, whip snakes, teeth chattering, and them talking in their own language. Loud whisper. But they're always louder around creeks and rivers because it covers their sound, and they raise their children around creeks and rivers because it covers their sound. And they can't control the sounds of their children, just like humans. So they have to give them a place where they could be, have a happy, healthy childhood best as possible. Their numbers are growing, or either they're just showing up more. I don't know what's going on. It may be that two worlds are merging, two different dimensions, two realms. There's a lot of other things going on too that I've been witness to lately. That's going to be another book. Anyway, okay, I'm going to leave this here. Again, with me, it's a take it or leave it. It doesn't change. I want to be clear that when people are doubtful, it doesn't change my encounters. And it doesn't make me a crazy person. It doesn't. I carry on with my life, you know. Yeah. I'm working with hairy people for over 2 years now, so I spend more time with Sasquatches than I do humans. I spend more time in communication with Sasquatches than I do humans. And that's just my reality. I love it. I really do. The hardest part is just connected with the human world. You almost have to separate the two a little just so you don't go crazy. You can't get caught up in trying to prove. I think that's a mistake. That's me. That's my personal opinion. Okay, so whatever anybody's doing, I'm not taking anything away from them. The only thing I'm against is killing them, or harming them, or bringing them in unharmed, quote unquote, to any of that bullshit. But I'm not going to go make a grandstand about it other than try to seek local protection, or to help people learn how to get local protection in areas local to them, and humans how to teach humans how to help get Sasquatches protected in their areas. It doesn't require classification, it does not. They're autonomous beings. They can take care of themselves, they can govern themselves. And again, there are people that have bad experiences with them, and that's different. I'm talking about truly bad experiences. I'm not talking about frightening experiences. I'm talking about where they're actually harmful. That's different. Those are just like you have good humans and bad humans, It's going to be the same way. Anyway, all right. That's a couple of whoops. All right, I'm going to leave this here. And blessed be. I love all. Peace and love to all. And please buy my book. Kindle ebook. He's not hairy. He's our brother. They're not hairy, they're our family. And it's just to say, really, they're not monsters. They're related to us. They're our brothers and sisters, whether we like it or not. I like it. I love it. I'm not going to say that the rest of that song, but I don't care for that song. I do. Anyway, blessed be.